Season of Defiance slash Lightfall launch. How was it? I always like to do these videos right before the upcoming season to not only share my thoughts, but also hear from you all on what you thought of the season. So definitely let me know if you agree or disagree with what I've got to say. I'm sure you will at some point. This video, just like any other seasonal recap videos, are mostly an audio-based video, so I'm just sharing my thoughts. So the video will just be some regular gameplay of maybe a Grandmaster or a raid. So nothing super crazy. Grab a cup of coffee, throw me on in the background or something like that, but let's get into it. Season 20 is similar to Season 16 from last year, Season 12 the year before that, in that we got a new expansion that launched alongside of it, with this year's obviously being Lightfall. Tons of new weapons, armor sets, a new destination with Neomuna, new campaign, new seasonal activities, a new raid, new subclass with Strand, quality of life changes, Guardian games, the list goes on. As far as content goes, I think we can objectively agree that we got a decent amount of content, although most of us are probably ready for Season of the Deep next week. Bringing so much content to the game is of course a good thing, but I think it's tough to expect every single expansion and season to get better and better than the previous ones, even though that's how we'd all prefer it. More content also comes at the cost of greater server instability as well, which I believe was also at its worst this season. I know we all felt it. Destiny just has so many combinations of things, it seems, that can cause servers to crash now, so it's hard to keep up with how many times it actually happens because it really feels like all the time there are server issues. The API went down recently for the second season in a row, and I think it's just a really big blow every time it happens. You really do realize how unplayable the game is without tools like Destiny Item Manager especially. And yeah, I know we've got the loadout system in place now, but unfortunately it's just not really helpful when transferring weapons from other characters yet. But I don't want to harp too hard on the server instability. It's just a topic that's been beaten to a pulp, so let's just get on with how the season and campaign itself went. And we'll start with the Lightfall campaign. The Witness finally arrived and had a quick 1v1 with a Traveler. Callus was upgraded, we had a new destination, new subclass, so much new stuff to discover. But as we all know now, Lightfall's campaign was not as well received as the Witch Queens from last year. We were again left with more questions than answers. As far as the story goes, when Bife didn't even know what the heck the Veil was, I knew I wasn't crazy with really not knowing what's going on in the story. And I'm someone that really likes lore videos, like I really try to pay attention to that stuff. Now is the time that I feel like we should really be starting to figure out what is actually happening in the story, as the final shape will be the final expansion of the Light and Darkness saga. I do think that this year, of course, we'll probably be uncovering quite a bit of those questions, but still, that campaign definitely had me going like, wait, that's actually the ending, really? So yeah, if we're comparing all Destiny campaigns, I'd say Lightfall was probably a 5 out of 10 compared to the Witch Queen's 8 out of 10 from last year. Callus played such a huge part in Destiny for so many years. I felt his death was really abrupt, although I do think it was really cool to have Nezarec as the raid boss. Having a stronger form of Callus as the raid boss would have made that death more impactful. I feel like it would have been really cool to see that. I know we kind of had Callus as the Leviathan raid boss way back in the day, but that wasn't the quote-unquote real Callus. We were just fighting a robot version of him. That's just my opinion though. Feel free to disagree with me. That's just where I'm at. And this kind of takes me to the topic of the new destination, Neomuna. The overall aesthetic and cyberpunk appeal is obviously great. It's one of my favorite art styles, neon lights, futuristic tech, love it. But the way this was marketed originally was that this was going to be a real city with inhabitants, which is kind of true, but also not really true because all of the inhabitants are essentially their consciousness that has been uploaded to the Cloud Ark. So you don't see anyone ever besides Rohan and Nimbus, which Rohan dies, so Nimbus is literally the only person on the planet that we can interact with. I do realize that Destiny's engine probably isn't strong enough to have a full destination filled with NPCs, but to have even just a safe zone area, something where the remaining civilians have kind of hunkered down, would add that little extra bit of life to the city. Despite Neomuna's awesome skyboxes, not taken away from that, you got vibrant colors everywhere, really futuristic look. It can feel very barren and lifeless at times, which I guess can be kind of par for the course for most destinations in Destiny 2. But I don't want this whole video to just come across as a complaining fest, super negative, so let's talk about some good stuff because I do think a lot of good came with Lightfall and Season of Defiance. And I think there's no better good thing than Strand when it comes to talking about good stuff. I love using Strand, on Titan especially. It's such a creative subclass, and I absolutely love that green color that it comes with. One thing I really appreciate about the dev team is that they're always full of surprises. They really are. Ever since Stasis launched as the first Darkness subclass, we all thought the next one was going to have something to do with poison, since we already had poison-like weapons with the Weapons of Sorrow in the game already. At least we got the color right, but we were definitely wrong about the poison. But yeah, Strand is not at all poison. The whole cosmic web and psychic energy concept was something that I don't think any of us expected to see, and I'm all for it. It's a really great concept, and they definitely made it fit within the lore too, which I do appreciate. With Strand, each class is balanced pretty well, I feel. They can all utilize every part of Strand, but they all have their own ways of mastering each part of it. Titans, we get some extra functionality with Suspend with the Drenger's Lash aspect, which can be enhanced with the new Abeyant Leap exotic legs. For me, this has been equipped the entire time, the whole season with Strand. It's a very easy counter to both barrier and unstoppable champions, and really any enemies. It just suspends everything. I use this in all forms of content all the way up to Grandmaster Nightfalls. Hunters get more utility out of Grapple with the Widow's Silk aspect, and grappling can be enhanced pretty well with the Surturachne's Facade with how it gives you Woven Mail while grappling. And finally, Warlocks are master of Threadlings with the Weaver's Call aspect and the Swarmer's exotic legs. You can just summon them very easily, and they really do a lot of work for you. And this is just the foundation of what we'll be getting throughout the whole year with Strand. I'd expect at least 2 more Strand aspects for each class, and most likely more fragments as well to help keep things fresh. Next season, we already know we're getting 1 new aspect for each class, so I'm excited to test all of those out. But yeah, Strand was great. I think the team really nailed it. Balanced much better than Stasis when that was launched. Stasis used to be completely broken if you were around back then. We also had a few exotic quests this season, 4 to be exact. The Final Warning Strand Sidearm, Deterministic Chaos, the Void LMG, Winterbite, the Heavy Stasis Glaive, and Vexcalibur, the Void Glaive. A few of these weapons are certainly better than others. Winterbite just can't stay bug-free for some reason. It's pretty funny. Unfortunately, my team never got around to really testing the huge damage numbers that weapon could get. But it was funny. Winterbite was definitely the Telesto of this season. Both Final Warning and Deterministic Chaos quests were pretty short and not super memorable, although Deterministics did definitely progress the story a bit post-campaign. I did like that. Vexcalibur's was a really solid exotic mission though. I was a big fan of that. We all knew it was kind of coming, like we saw it in the database, the Vexcalibur weapon, but I still had that excitement while progressing the mission because it's a secret mission. It's always exciting. We just had to figure it out and it was fun. The Vex network is always just so epic to look at. Bright purples and teals everywhere just makes for a really great atmosphere. And this mission was really hard compared to some of the other exotic missions. Legendary especially, like it's no joke if you haven't tried it. Especially compared to Operation Seraph Shield from last season, that was way easier on Legend. I was able to solo flawless that one on like my second try, but I didn't even try to solo flawless the Vexcalibur mission. I'm sure I could get it, maybe I will at some point, but that is not this day. Not trying it. Vexcalibur had some functionality similar to Revision Zero's in that upgrading it was locked behind weekly quest steps. I both like and dislike this. It's good because you always have that additional thing that you can do the next week, like you always kind of have something to look forward to, but it can be bad because sometimes you just want to grind out that quest, complete everything all at once if you have a lot of open time. I really doubt this is going to change with any upcoming exotic missions. Pretty sure they're going to keep it to a weekly progressing thing, but I guess we'll see. Anyway, Vexcalibur is an okay glaive, I guess. It was stronger before the nerf. Glaives are just in a weird spot where they'll be insanely good with things like Judgment of Kelgrath being totally broken in Season 19, only for it to get nerfed the next season. And yeah, they did nerf glaives really hard this season, so they again have just dropped into a spot where they're just average special weapons. They're just really underused. I really liked the concept of glaives when they came out last year, but using one, let alone using one and taking up my exotic slot, is not something that I'd like to do with Vexcalibur, so I'll just wait until they get some sort of buff in the future. I don't know, maybe I'll never use it again. A new Destiny expansion always comes with a new raid, with this year's obviously being Root of Nightmares, or the Ron. This raid is fun. I know that there's a lot of people that like to hate on it, and I honestly do get where they're coming from, but like I said, I do have a lot of fun with this raid every time I run it, which as of the making of this video is 15 clears. I know it's not like a ton or anything, but 3 of those clears have been on Master. 1 was a first 48-hour clear, so I did get that emblem. Pretty proud of it. I also did manage to get my Dream Warrior title done this season, so I've done everything in the raid that you can possibly do. But man, getting that Master Scission Encounter Triumph was horrible because the launchers are just so unpredictable. The entire challenge revolves around those launchers, so yeah, it wasn't fun at all, but hey, we got it done, never doing it again. Anyway, Root of Nightmares is great, and you should totally run it if you haven't tried it already. As always, it's a knockout of the park in terms of visual appeal, and it's really not a difficult raid by any means, so it's a good starter raid. And this is where I can kind of empathize with some people that have hate for the raid. A few members of the Destiny community have already gotten their solo flawless runs in on a raid. And it can be done with as little as 3 or 4 players with little stress once you know what you're doing. I guess this is another area where it's like, dude, we're nearing the end of the Light and Darkness saga. Why are we making quick and easy raids? Each raid should be building upon the previous raids in terms of scale and difficulty, especially when power creep is considered. This raid is easier than some of the older raids, which should not be the case. And again, that's where I understand the complaints. But putting this raid in an echo chamber, not comparing it with any other raid, it's fun. I'm going to continue to run it, and you can't talk about Root of Nightmares without going over the conditional finality exotic shotgun. Collective Obligation from the Vow of the Disciple last year was so cool, but this somehow outdoes it for me. Being able to both freeze and ignite enemies makes this a really cool, unique weapon. It's a really fun counter to unstoppable champions, and really any major enemy. It just works against everything. It looks awesome, and it actually has utility, which I really enjoy. Unlike the Touch of Malice from King's Fall, which is really cool looking, but has like no use outside of King's Fall and the Daughters encounter. And to help you get the conditional finality, you should try to complete the triumphs associated with the raid to help boost your drop rate. If you didn't know that, completing some of those, like doing it all as a solar subclass, all as a void class, whatever, all those, they will actually help increase the drop rate for you. It took me 13 clears to get mine, and I actually was working on the triumphs the whole time. So be prepared to run the RON quite a bit to get conditional finality. We got a lot of other really good new weapons too, with my most used weapon this season being Quicksilver Storm. Yeah, I was using this at the beginning of the season before it got its buff of 40% extra damage to red bars. I just got the gun's mechanics down to a science, and this season I really loved using it on Titan especially, which is where I spent most of my time. The Strand change, when we got its catalyst, made it really a workhorse weapon that synergizes amazingly with Strand. The grenades now create tangles when you get kills with them, which makes it very easy to generate things like Woven Mail, and also does some crazy AoE damage and suspends enemies. Seriously, if you haven't tried it out, you have to. It's a phenomenal weapon. But we did get some solid legendary weapons as well. The Immortal SMG was the most dominant and lethal weapon in PvP in my opinion. I never got one because I just straight up don't enjoy trials at all. Maybe I'll get to it one day, but yeah, not now. I loved using the Circular Logic LMG with how good LMGs are right now. It's what I used in every GM this season, and you can get it right now on Neomuna pretty easily. Some of the Defiant weapons also had some really good trait combos, with the Royal Executioner Fusion Rifle getting Envious Assassin and Reservoir Burst, making it one of the most lethal fusions in the game right now. Or if you want a crazy strong arc fusion rifle, the Iterative Loop can be crafted with Volt Shot, which Volt Shot, one of the best arc perks in the game. Some of the raid weapons, really good too. Acacia's Dejection, Rufus's Fury, some of my favorites. There are more. I do have some crafting recommendation guides up for both the Neomuna and Root of Nightmares weapons, so I'll card them up here if you want to check those out. Did I miss any weapons? Let me know. I'm sure I did. There are a lot of weapons that came out this season. I think over 60. Another new thing that Lightfall brought was the inclusion of Guardian ranks and Commendations. Both of these systems have received changes even within their first season. So Guardian ranks had some reduction in the amount of commendations needed to rank up, and had a few other adjustments as well to better match the difficulty within each rank. I feel like this system is close to what it should be. It's not quite there yet, but they've got the right idea. Almost all feedback that I've seen, including my own, has been, we just don't like getting our ranks reset. It's not fun. I'd much rather have a number that either continuously goes up, or maybe make it like a guildable system, kind of like how titles work, that will visually show how many seasons that I've reached rank 11. There's got to be some way that that can be implemented at some point. Hopefully that happens. But I did feel that the challenges associated with each rank were balanced pretty well, especially after that patch that came out about halfway through the season to make him just a bit easier. But anyone that's rank 11, you know they are a legit Guardian, with having to get that solo Spire clear and Conqueror title as just a few of the requirements to reach that rank. And on your journey to rank 11, you'll have to get a clear in every raid, have Master Lost Sector clears, a Master Root of Nightmare clear, solo Spire of the Watcher clear, 85 exotic weapons, I think 20 exotic armor pieces, and those are just a few of the big hurdles that you'll have to overcome to reach rank 11. I do like this. I've got this sense of pride by being rank 11. I know that I've conquered just about everything that Destiny has to throw at me, and yeah, it's nice to get it done. And I know that next season I get to keep my rank 11, but after that, like let's say I didn't play for a season, I would go back down to rank 6 in season 22. So just let me keep my rank overall, and I think I'd be happy with that. Commendations, on the other hand, are just kind of a joke at this point. The integration they had, especially earlier on in the season with Guardian ranks, really created bad habits out of everyone. Now we just commend everyone without realizing what we're even giving. It's like, oh, you need the blue ones to rank up, right? Okay, here you go. And that's how we do it. That's how it's been. Hopefully over time the commendation system can get a little bit more accurate, but for right now, it honestly really is not great. Season of Defiance, as mentioned, launched with some new Battlegrounds activities, which is pretty much the standard that we can expect for everything seasonal nowadays. Defiant Battlegrounds were how we progressed the seasonal story this season, and yeah, I thought they were okay. I didn't feel that they enhanced the Heist Battlegrounds from last season, PsyOps Battlegrounds from Season 16, or any other Battlegrounds experiences that we've had. It was just more of the same, which I guess isn't a bad thing because, as mentioned, Battlegrounds are not bad, they're just not great. And contrary to the majority of people, I think, I actually thought that Season of the Haunted seasonal flow was great. Having the Derelict Leviathan as a destination with some secrets that we can find, some hidden bosses here and there, hidden events, fun activity to kill tons of enemies that I didn't have to matchmake into was great. If I wanted to, I could take a quick few minute break and come back to it without feeling like I was letting everyone down by being AFK for a couple minutes. The Sever missions provided clear storyline, and they weren't too short like Season of Plunder's pirate hideout missions, but they weren't too long like how grinding Battlegrounds for hours can feel sometimes. Something is telling me that with Season of the Deep next season, we're going to get some form of destination like how we did with the Derelict Leviathan in Season 17. I mean, Titan is pretty much confirmed to come back in some way. Hopefully it's something new from Battlegrounds. Okay, so back to the seasonal loop. It was again more of the same. We'd run our Battlegrounds, acquire our engrams, upgrade the helm, focus the engrams at the helm to get new seasonal gear, and Bungie has said that they're going to be diverting from this in some way in Season 2, I believe. From what I remember, I believe that they're removing those helm upgrade trees for that season. It'll just be something different to what we have now. But eventually this whole system, it's got to go. At its core, it's literally been the exact same for years now, except now it can be even more frustrating as the goal is to acquire red borders for the most part, which if you don't have the upgrades in the helm unlocked to help you get more of those red borders, you'll just be dumping engrams in like crazy. Kind of like how the opulent focusing straight up has a seemingly like 1 in a million chance to getting a red border. I put a few hundred engrams toward that opulent energy focusing engram, and I still don't have 5 red border crown splitters, that sword for the Titan. Genuinely feels like it's a 1 to 2% drop chance. I would say that's probably pretty accurate for those ones. But anyway, I guess there's not too much to say about the seasonal loop because it's what we've been doing for so long now. I'm just ready for something new. Grandmasters this season were pretty tough. I think this is probably the most challenging set we've had in a while, and I feel like I say that every season, but they really do keep getting harder. Of course, power creep is a thing. We are stronger Guardians now, but the actual Grandmasters themselves are pretty difficult. There really wasn't any easy GM on rotation this season as compared to like 3 seasons ago, so if you gilded Conqueror this season, nice job. The rework of the Lake of Shadows and Arms Dealer strikes made some of the easiest and quickest GM farms some of the longest and most challenging ones. And yeah, I'm mainly talking about Lake of Shadows here. That Taken Servitor that you fight in the middle of it, the meatball, is an absolute nightmare. There is no safety almost anywhere, and the boss room really is utter chaos. But my team, just like pretty much every other team you see running Lake of Shadows now, did resort to that cheese method where you jump to the roof and you're pretty much completely safe from taking all damage. You just kind of hang back and kill the boss from there. Mars Battlegrounds, also just a nightmare of a GM. We all knew that one was going to be rough. That boss room is crazy. Most of the strike isn't too bad, but once you get to the boss room, your run can get ruined like in 1 second. It definitely took my squad a few tries to get the clear, but yeah, I really didn't farm GMs that week for sure. The Hypernet Current, the new strike this season, brought an equivalent challenge as well. Initially, I thought this was going to be worse than Mars Battlegrounds, but once we learned the spawns of the enemies, especially in that boss room, we were able to clear it kind of easily. It was still kind of difficult, but it wasn't too bad. Glassway used to be like the toughest GM by far, but surprisingly, it was the easiest GM for me this season. Maybe it's because I've run it so many seasons now, I'm just used to it, but it's just not that challenging to me anymore. I don't think the Arms Dealer was tough. This one probably was the easiest one, but you used to be able to complete this Grandmaster in 15 minutes or less, where now it's like 30 to 35 minutes with my squad. At least that's what we get. We're not the craziest speedrunners out there. And with these two new revamped strikes, being unable to just nuke the bosses right away definitely forces you to actually learn the optimal mechanics, spawns, strats to help you get the clear. Thankfully, next season we won't have to wait until week 6 to start running them too, because there will be no pinnacle cap increase. Thank you. We will have access to GMs on week 4 next season, so a little bit of extra time to help get your Conqueror title gilded or just to get Conqueror. The season wrapped up with the Guardian Games event that started a couple weeks ago, or the Destiny Olympics. I always love how the tower gets changed to match whatever event is currently happening. The art team again just does a great job at making things really festive every time. This was the 4th event that had that new event challenge and event card system, and it's actually okay. You always know exactly what you need to do to get the unique loot. You get prizes, extra materials along the way. I really do like it. I think now we at least know what to expect out of these events, with the next one being the Solstice that will happen next season over summer. But in terms of like getting the title, there's always that one challenge that just ends up being such a grind, and it kind of makes the event feel like more of a chore than something that you do to actually have fun. I did end up getting the champ title. There was that one triumph that had you get 600 medallion score. That one was pretty grindy. There's always like one grindy triumph for every seasonal event that we have. Without doing any sort of cheesing, it really takes a long time to get done, but yeah, I guess that's what cheesing is for. You just get it done really quickly and kind of spam some medals. I didn't play too much Supremacy, just enough to get my title done, so I don't have like too much feedback other than that I had some fun while I had it. But for Nightfalls, I thought the inclusion of new medals, scoring, and the competition within the Nightfall itself was actually pretty fun though. The few times I loaded into the tower as the highest scoring Nightfall Guardian, it did make me feel like a pro gamer for sure. And trying to get my scores up to compete with friends that had outscored me in Nightfalls was also kind of fun as well. I like competition. I think it would have been better though if we had the Nightfalls on a daily rotating schedule instead of a weekly rotating schedule. Running that Hypernet Current over and over and over again on week 1 did put me in a position to play a few other games. Really, the last half of the season, I played an unholy amount of Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 remakes. If you haven't tried them, they're amazing. Definitely go play them. Just a quick recommendation, playing other games as the season winds down, once you kind of get everything done, to avoid burnout, just go play something else. I always do it every season, and it really always helps me want to come back to Destiny once that new season drops. And I guess that's where this video ends. I wrote this in one sitting and wanted to just kind of lay down my thoughts as raw as possible. This is how I actually feel about the game. I love Destiny so much, despite its flaws, and the community is great as well, especially the ones that are subscribed here and are in Discord. Shameless plug, I know, but I can't believe that this is my 3rd seasonal recap already. Still seems like I just started making YouTube videos here. Still loving it, can't wait to have more time to make videos, but next season I will be keeping the content rolling for you, so don't worry about that. We got some cool videos planned. Please join the Discord if you want. If you're looking for some friends, say hi if you want to. But that is all for this one. I think if I missed anything, let me know down in the comments. But I will see you all in the next video.